Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to start new lesson from your book part 1 Beehive and lesson number 9 and lesson number 10. The lesson number 9 the Great Stone Face 1 and the Great Stone Face 2. Lesson number 2. Both will be described in this video. So listen carefully. First of all, we will discuss the first part, the Great Stone Face 1, and we will discuss the word meanings of this chapter. So start. Furrows. Furrows means deep lines. Furrows means deep lines. Second, obscures. Obscures means not well known. Not well known. First, furrows, deep lines. Second, obscure. Not well known. Third, unawares, unknowingly. Unaware, unknowingly. Customary toil. Usual work. Hospitably, gently, here. Custom, habit. Harmonized with, agreed with. Says, wise man. Diffuse, spread all around. Diffuse, spread all around. And now we will discuss the summaries of these parts. The first part is The Great Stone Face, part 1. The Great Stone Face is a story written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It revolves around a man and his fascination with a mountainside. A little boy named Ernest lives with his mother in the valley. The mother is telling Ernest about the Great Stone Face. Everyone in the valley knew about it. Now Ernest was learning about it. It is indeed a piece of nature. It is a local mountainside that has huge rocks that resemble the features of a human face from afar. Ernest was always felt that the giant face was always smiling at him. His mother tells him about a local legend that says a local legend that a man resembling the giant face will return to the valley one day. That man will be the greatest and the noblest. The first part of the Great Stone Face is about Ernest's quest. Quest means search to find out man who will return one day to the valley and resemble the great stone face. इसमें हमने ये पढ़ा कि छोटे छोटे दो बच्चे एक छोटा सा बच्चा जो बिल्कुल माउंटेन के सामने रहता था अपनी माँ के साथ, हमेशा उसे लगता था कि सामने घर के सामने बहुत बड़े माउंटेन्स है, वो बिल्कुल मतलब उसका फेस था जो माउंटेन्स का वो किसी बड़े जाइंट की तरह था। तो हमने अक्सर देखा होगा बच्चे बहुत ज़्यादा इमेजिनेशन करते हैं, चाहे क्लाउड्स को आप लोग देखते हो, चाहे माउंटेन्स को देखते हो, या कभी भी किसी वॉल को बड़ी गौर से देखते हो तो कोई ना कोई इमेजिनेशन या किसी किसी की शक्ल उससे मिलती जुलती बनाते, चाहे गॉड से हो, चाहे कि किसी कार्टून से हो, या किसी भी चीज़ से हम उसको मतलब थोड़ा मिलता जुलता सा, मतलब बहुत देर देखने के बाद ऐसा लगता है कि हम इमेजिनेशन करना शुरू कर देते हैं कि उसकी जो शक्ल है वो उससे मिलती जुलती है। वैसे लोग उस बड़े माउंटेन्स को देखते थे और ये सोचते हैं कि उसकी जो शक्ल है वो किसी बड़े जाइंट से लगती है। वहाँ पे पूरे विलेज में ये स्टोरी भी वैसे काफ़ी स्प्रेड हो चुकी थी, एक बहुत बड़ा जाइंट होगा, बहुत नॉबलिस्ट सिंसियर होगा जो कभी उस विलेज में आएगा उनकी बातें सुनेगा, ऐसे ये स्टोरी बन चुकी थी उस विलेज में। तो ऐसे उसकी माँ उसको कहानियाँ सुनाती थी कि कोई ना कोई आएगा, पहले बताती बहुत रिच और वेल्दी पर्सन होगा जो उसमें आएगा, उनकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करेगा, इतना बड़ा जाइंट होगा। कभी मतलब ऐसे सुना जाता था कोई आर्मी मैन वहाँ पे आएगा, उनको मतलब प्रोटेक्ट करेगा, ऐसे वैसे ऐसी काफ़ी स्टोरियाँ चली हुई थी जो हम फर्स्ट पार्ट में पढ़ते हैं और ये जानते हैं कि मतलब आता है कि नहीं आता, बस यही चलता है। मतलब द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट स्टोन फेस इज अबाउट था अर्नेस्ट क्वेस्ट टू फाइंड आउट, पता लगाना कि कौन उसके विलेज में आने वाला है उनकी प्रॉब्लम को या उन्हें प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए। रिसेंबल द ग्रेट स्टोन, जिसका जो शक्ल थी वो मतलब मिलती थी किसके, स्टोन फेस। इसके इस चैप्टर को ग्रेट स्टोन फेस का नाम दिया गया जैसे कि चैप्टर में दिखाई गया। और सेकेंड पार्ट में we will discuss the second part of the story. Finally reveals all about the look-alike whom Ernest is waiting for. Waiting for. Ernest has a very kind and simple heart. When the poet comes to know about the Ernest, he decides to visit him. He visits the Ernest and notices that he is reading a book and glancing lovingly every now and then at the mountain. And the poet says that night at Ernest's place at his in resistance, and Ernest's nature managed to impress the poet. He watches him speak to his neighbors every evening. He decided to accompany Ernest and listen to him talk to him. And on staying with Ernest, the poet realized that he is a very noble and kind gentleman. The story concludes by the telling us that the man who was in the search of the look-alike turns out to be that himself. But because he has always visited for it to be someone else, he doesn't believe in it and wait for the right look-alike to arrive. तो इसमें सेकंड पार्ट में हम पढ़ेंगे कि कोई भी आदमी जो होता है वो उससे मिलता जुलता वो ढूंढ रहे होते हैं, जो फर्स्ट पार्ट में पढ़ा। सेकंड पार्ट में हमने पढ़ा कि पॉइंट बहुत सुनता है उस विलेज के बारे में कि अर्नेस्ट बहुत ही एक ईमानदार और सिंसियर बच्चा है, तो वो डिसाइड कर लेता है कि वो अब क्या ग्रेट स्टोन फेस बन के जाएगा उन विलेज में। वो रोज़ जाता तो माउंटेन के पास खड़ा हो जाता, उन लोगों को स्पीच देता है, उसके बारे में बताता जैसे बताया गया। लास्ट में वो ये डिसाइड कर लेता है कि वो मतलब अर्नेस्ट को बोलता है कि जिसको वो ढूंढ रहा है वो खुद है। अगर इंसान खुद मतलब वैसा है जो वो सोच रहे कि उनकी हेल्प करेगा, ये वो करेगा, उनके साथ प्रोटेक्ट करेगा, उनकी डिमांड्स पूरी करेगा, तो वो कहता है अगर हम सिंसियर हैं, हम ऑनेस्ट हैं, तो हम ही ये सारे काम कर सकते हैं। मतलब हमारे अंदर ही है वो, जिसकी वो शक्ल जान रहे हैं। लास्ट वाला वी विल read. Then all the people looked and saw that the poet was true, the prophecy was fulfilled. वो जो prophecy means जो prediction भविष्यवाणी थी वो सच हो गई। But Ernest, having finished what he had to say, took the poet's arm and walked slowly homeward, still hoping that some wiser and better man than himself would by and by appear, bearing resemblance to the great stone face. सब आदमियों की शक्ल जो थी ग्रेट स्टोन फेस की तरह मिलती थी, कोई खास नहीं जो उनके पास आने वाला है। बस यही थी स्टोरी जो हमने रीड की, वर्ड मीनिंग किया। एंड नाउ वी विल डिस्कस द क्वेश्चन आंसर ऑफ दिस चैप्टर. What was the great stone face? The great stone face was a fine work of nature. The mountain and the rock stood next to each other in such a way that it resembled the feature of a human face. What did young Ernest wished when he gazed at it? The young Ernest wished that the stone face could speak, as it looked very kindly. He felt he must have a very pleasant voice. What was the story attributed to the stone face? The story was that a child would take birth who would resemble the stone face when he grows up. And did Ernest see in the gather gold the likeness of the stone face? No, Ernest didn't see any likeness in the man with the stone face. Who did the confined in, and how was he proved right? He confined in the stone face. The face seemed to say that the man would come when Ernest become a young man. Somebody will come back. And now we will discuss the second part question answer. How was the Ernest different from the others in the valley? The Ernest was a selfless person. He had no ill will for anybody. So Ernest was different from others in the valley. Why did Ernest think that the poet was like the stone face? Ernest thought so because the thoughts expressed in his poem stood for the greatest virtues and noble deeds. What did the poet himself say about his thoughts and poems? The poet said that his thoughts were completely empty. His life had been different from what was expressed in his poem. Last question, what made the poet proclaimed Ernest was the stone face? When the Ernest was addressing the gathering the poet noticed the resemblance with the stone face. So he threw his hands up in the air and proclaimed to the similarity. Thank you and have a nice day.